I mean, I think physical activity is probably the best way to get to know people on the planet because it's great for you. You get stronger, they get stronger. And, like you put your guard down a little bit in a good way because we have so many guards up now. We're so private. We don't want to bother anybody, right? And so it's like this other person is willing to be bothered.
This is Andrew Votz, and you're listening to Choose the Hard Way, where my guest shares stories about how doing hard things builds stronger, more resilient people. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and forward it to a friend who likes doing hard things. If you'd like to suggest a guest or have feedback, you can reach me at choosethehardway@gmail.com or at hardwaypod on Twitter or Instagram. Can human movement be used to repair the damage technology's created in the world? That's the question I explore on this episode with Jason McCarthy. Jason served as a Green Beret and is the founder and CEO of GoRuck, the gear and events company. Now he's launched Sandlot Technology. Their goal is to democratize and unite fitness. On this episode, we talk about what Jason learned from holding the inaugural GoRuck Games and Sandlot JAX Festival, and much more. Jason was one of my first guests way back on episode 3 when he joined me to talk about his path from special forces to entrepreneurship and founding GoRuck. You can find that link in the show notes. To learn more about Jason and Sandlot, you can go to goruck.com and sandlot.fit.
So there is a risk with businesses becoming, if you let kind of HR and finance determine the direction of the business, eventually everything goes, it turns either super milquetoast or it just kind of you're not actually innovating anymore. You're not doing anything that's maybe even serves your core purpose of why you exist. And so for GoRuck, I mean, it took, let's say, a decade. And when you, in the blink of an eye, so to say, kind of, you look up and events for us is a fraction of the business relative to the business of the brand of GoRuck, but it's the heart and soul. These are where the snake eaters in the community live. This is where like the true heartbeat is with the people. And you don't find that in financial spreadsheets, and you don't find that with, the rules and regulations of what we can and can't do, so to say, like, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that, right? And so it's kind of like my soul fights against that. And what I want to do is I want us to stand for something more. And ultimately, that's a more active way of life that exists in the real world, that's community focused and community driven. And I think that is foundational to our happiness, our way of life, our future. It's the best example we can set for our kids, who, by the way, are going to inherit this country, whether we are ready for them to or not. Damn it, it's going to be theirs. And so it kind of said, okay, like at some point I started almost running a gear company, and I reject that with my soul. So I have to take more drastic measures. My wife, Emily, she calls it, my husband's crazy pipe dreams, right? And it's kind of like how the soul rejects that turns into a massive planning project around what we can do and what's kind of realistic enough with resources and all that stuff. So it led to kind of a technology. So we have, to put it simply, right? Like GoRuck's big stated goal is make rucking bigger than running. Put weight on your back, go for a walk. You can do it with other people. We have all these events that are based on it. We were running 1,000 events. We ran 500, 700 events in 2020, 0 COVID transmission cases, by the way, because they're outside, 500 in 2021. But more importantly than that, even, there are 500 GoRuck clubs around the country. And we wanted to support them in kind of community building endeavors. And the question is, how do we get new people as a brand? This is really the heart and soul of it, because you have to grow, right? So how? that's a very open-ended question. And if you're in charge, you have to listen and you have to know the pulse, and then you have to kind of come up with a plan to do that. And so I believe in the community at GoRuck, like the people. That's come what may. I believe in community, and not forums, by the way. Those are online quote communities that are masquerading as real communities, like real world communities. So how do we force multiply through these communities and empower them and give them the tools in order that they can do the work for us? They can recruit their friends in order to do that. So a buddy partner and I started Sandlot Technology, which was an empowerment for that to happen. He was the COO of Nike Plus, put 4 number 1 apps in the App Store with his team way back when, right? So I don't know anything about technology, but I know a lot about community and building. We have this passionate GoRuck side. So Sandlot JAX was a large fitness festival involving lots of different communities, not just GoRuck. So we said to GoRuck, yes, our communities, please come. We're throwing the biggest party we've ever thrown. It's in Jacksonville, Florida, right on the river, downtown. We're building an obstacle course. We're trainer-led classes. There's fit talks, so think TED-style talks with thought leaders across the broad spectrum of health and wellness and fitness and training and technology. You name it. It was represented. And have I lost anybody yet? Do you think? Is it
no,
getting
I don't
crazy?
Think so. No.
Keep
going.
Okay. So it was like I want more people to come together. This is where, look, if you are not active, what you do is you sit at home and you're chasing ghosts on your phone. You're chasing happiness. It's like eating bags of candy, wondering why you're not getting stronger in life, right? Oh, it tastes good. It tastes good. You just more candy. But you need meat and potatoes, man, and throw in some vegetables in there if you want to get stronger. And if you want to get happier, you need to be more active. And we are suffering as a people. We are suffering from a lack of activity. And I don't just mean go do push-ups. I mean, go outside, run into other people, talk to them. Talk to people in your community. You might run into them at the grocery store if you don't get everything delivered to your house. If everything is me all the time and everything is the individual, and I'm for the Constitution, by the way, just to throw that out there, I'm for all of those things, the inalienable rights. I also think that, we're a lot happier and healthier when we're a part of something bigger than ourselves. So what's better than one community at a party is lots of communities at a party. So we had all these different kinds of brands and communities from, Travis Manion Foundation, Team Red, White, and Blue, Wounded Warrior Project on the kind of nonprofit side, to the Ready State with Kelly Starrett, and Rogue Fitness was there, and Savage Race was there, and we drew upon lots of different, lots of F45 was there, lots of different kinds of people, but united by this desire to be a part of a real world community, come outside, have fun, and see the people. And the timing ended up on Sandlot JAX ended up being great because, 2 years into the pandemic, people hadn't seen people in the real world in a long time, and that's a problem. And so it was like this big kind of, school's back, and you're kind of nervous for the first day of school, but you see all these people and you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. And so, it kind of, over time, it's a forcing function for lots of things. This big festival, it's an annual thing. On the technology side, it's a way to kind of debut forcing new features and functionality into a way to bring people together. So it's basically a geospatial fitness app, right? Meet me at this time, this place, this location. Let's do this thing. You can do anything, right? The trainer gets to pick, the brand gets to pick, the whomever gets to pick. So rucking is part of it, but run clubs or, independent boot camp trainers, you can all do it. Start with that, trainers leading classes in the real world, and then you can scale out, not start with the phone or a technology problem. Start with a real world problem that we believe in and we want to see more of. Use more of the parks, use more of the trails, use more of the beaches, use more of the everything, and empower people to do that. And so that's cool. But on the larger kind of GoRuck plus our friends side, it's just a way to throw a big party every year, and you see a bunch of people, and that's where the magic happens, is when a bunch of stuff that's not scripted just sort of happens. And nobody got enough sleep and everybody sweat a lot and everybody learned a lot. We worked that big giant muscle between our ears a bunch, and it was great fun.
It sounds so simple when you describe it, yet there's no way that it was actually easy. And so I'm wondering, in the process of putting on this event and also, on the technology side with what you were describing, which thing came first, kind of the technology idea or the idea of bringing together these different communities in real life? And as you did that, I'm wondering, what new things did you have to learn that you perhaps were not expert in at the outset in order to move these ideas forward?
So a lot of these, from the GoRuck Games on, a lot of these ideas have been brewing for a long time, and we've wanted to do them. It's just, you have to, sometimes it's called tactical patience. Sometimes you have to do it when you can do it well and not when you want to do it, right? So this actually started in our driveway. It was the very early days of the pandemic, and the weather's great in March, April timeframe in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, where we live. And so, we were going crazy like everybody else. I'm still kind of going to work, but I'm one of the few. I'm rucking to work. It's 4 miles away. I just got to keep my sanity. My wife and I started, how my dad was a pressman in Ohio, right? And it was always a big deal, like first shift, second shift, third shift. Well, I would come and at the end of his shift, when, the next shift would come in, and then we would drive home or whatever. But there was always that big shift change. You clock in when you get there and you clock out on the way out. Well, that's what my wife and I did for, to keep the business going strong during the pandemic. Was I was waking up at 4 a.m. to ruck to work. And then I would come home around lunchtime, right? And then I would sort of clock in with the kids, and she would go to work, and then I'd see her at dinner time. And then I'm ready to pass out because it's been a long day for me. And we did that for a while. But what kind of was also kept our sanity with our kids was we have this awesome badass Jeep. If you don't have one, I highly recommend it, especially with kids. And we put it in the driveway, and it was the jungle gym. We have a park and a beach and stuff that's not too far away, a couple blocks away. But when we were there, I'm like at my stand-up desk in the garage, which was a workbench, and the kids are just running around, climbing all over the Jeep and stuff. And our youngest at that time was, I guess he was 3. So that was kind of the balance, the work-life balance, so to say. But then it was like, man, Emily started having lunches with her girlfriends in the park, right? Like in a circle, and you bring your own stuff and you sit far away from each other, but they're still talking. Like, we need this social health as the glue to our lives. Well, that transition to I got to work out or something. I'm still kind of going stir crazy. Just like, do more in times like this, not less. The less time you sit and stew on something, and the more time you kind of work it out with physical exhaustion, that's usually a better solution for me. But I think what was getting enormously just slaughtered during the pandemic was social fitness. This idea of coming together with real people in the real world, and not just, you're staring at the mirror at Bailey's or LA Fitness and you got your headphones in and other people got their headphones in. That's like going to Starbucks and putting your headphones in and pretending like you're at a work environment where other people care about you, because they don't, right? It's like two ships. Like the trick is you have to actually care about the other people. And so we have this great little community of families and friends that are in the hood. And we started saying, okay, come to our driveway Saturday afternoon at 3:30 in the afternoon. And it just stuck. And so before you know it, everybody's coming. And we stacked around that. Other times it was more times a week. Sometimes, the girls would break off and do their own thing. But a little bit of activity spurred more activity. We started to realize, like, look, whoever came out, do you remember that ad that came out at the very beginning about the particles? The particles, they could spread and you could die, right? Like, whoever did that, they need to reckon for what they did to damage people's fear perception, because going outside caused nothing in our experience at running 1,200 events in 2 years as well, like up close and personal events. zero documented cases of COVID transmission, and certainly not in our driveway, right? Like working out with our buddies with sandbags and rucks on. And so it was like, look, this is really good for us. And it's nice that we've figured this out. We're not angry about this. We just think more people need to dial back the fear and do kind of some risk analysis and say, is what I'm doing working? Because, stress levels through the roof, anxiety through the roof, loneliness through the roof, isolation, massive accounts, like every single measure of human health was worse a year later and even worse 2 years later than it was at the start of the pandemic. And it was bad at the beginning, right? All those things are all up, from obesity to depression to suicide. Everything is up. It's all worse. And, correlation, causality, those are different things, I understand. But to me, like what has really happened is isolation has happened. We are more private than ever. And privacy it's something that we need in life. I believe there's a right to privacy and all these things, but it's going to kill you if you abuse it. And like our genetic makeup is organized around being a part of a tribe, a group of people. So about a year into the pandemic, right? This was like working for us. It's still stressful, but this is working for us. It was like enough. All the supply chain issues, those are going to work themselves out. That's gear company stuff. Like we've got to take a stand that's more inspirational around live the life. And so how do we kind of promote this way of life and empower it more? So one, let's give the big tools to the little guys, including the GoRuck clubs. On the technology side, that is a long process. And I would personally rather like break all the windows in your house. I'd rather chew all that broken glass than start a technology company myself, right? Because it's just difficult and tedious work, and I haven't done it before. So I the learning curve, you make a lot of mistakes when you haven't done something before. BJ, on the other hand, came from team sports. So he's a knuckle dragging meathead too, right? So it was like, okay, this is a good fitness activity, team sports that really unites us. And he kind of took the technology side of it, and I'm very involved on like the direction there, how to support the community, but he does all of that. And I focused a lot more of my efforts on annualizing the first fitness festival, Sandlot JAX. So that became, the fun part about that, which was also the hard part, and you're winning when that's the case, was I got to pick up the phone and call people that I haven't been in touch with in a long time, and said, hey, we're throwing, like, everyone that I've ever met or worked with if you didn't, I'm sorry, send me a note. I probably, dropped the ball, come to the next one. But it was one of those things where, I picked up the phone and said, hey, will you please come to this? Like, this is the way of life. And I got to explain why we're doing this and what we're doing. And everybody said yes. And that was the thing. It's like, we believe in real world community. This is a greater anecdote than any AI that's piped through anyone's phone telling you what to do all the time. Is you need to find some friends, and you need to be outside, and you need to sweat, and you need to kind of social fitness doesn't have to be that much fitness at all either. You need to be outside. You need to go have dinner with your friends on your back patio. You need to, go for a walk, do these things, right? Like, be part of, talk to other people in the real world. And this is the glue. And this is the glue to so much happiness in our lives. And it's just been slaughtered. And so how do we use technology as a tool became the technology side, and then leverage relationships and friendships, to get these other brands, communities, trainers, speakers, and was really, really humbled what happened when I picked up the phone and explained this way of life, which people were not shocked by when I'm telling them this. And I would say, please come. And they came. And that, like, I'm grateful. So I have this poster. It's actually at the frame shop, and it has the names of the speakers and the trainers and the brands and stuff like that. And we got the speakers to sign it because there were 30 TED style talks. We call them fit talks that were also on the ground. So after you got done sweating, doing whatever, you could go, work that big muscle between your ears and get smarter. And so it was great. They all signed it. And, M at the top, right, wrote my husband's crazy pipe dream, and so it's one of the best things. I'm really proud of this because it brought a lot of people together, and we're still kind of seeing the effects of that because you bring people together and then they get to do stuff on their own. And you know what they owe me? Absolutely nothing. They don't owe us anything. They came and they shared their time with us, and we're really grateful, and we had a lot of fun, and we're really excited to do it again.
And then as part of Sandlot JAX, you also, of course, you had the GoRuck Games. And you, of course, as you said, you've organized thousands of live events over the past decade plus. This was different, though. So what did you have to do that was new or different from what you'd done previously? How is this a different type of live event experience?
So we haven't done too much that's been competitive at GoRuck, right? We do have a couple rucking events that are longer distances, 50 milers and stuff, but we've never really doubled down on that. It's always been kind of about the team. But deeper than that, it's about the Special Forces way of life. And competition does breed excellence. It's just a fact, right? And so we wanted to kind of bring together, imagine that, these different kind of ways of training. And so it took the infrastructure of Sandlot JAX to kind of make this a reality because we had the three brands that featured prominently in what we did on the GoRuck Games in terms of how to test people was GoRuck, of course, right? So that's basically rucking and strength work with sandbags, right? I mean, you can get really, really strong on that stuff. And if you're going to prepare for something like Special Forces selection, you can hit the gym if you want, but you're not going to be tested in the gym. You're going to be tested outside with a rucksack on your back, first and foremost. So that was kind of foundational to it. They will ruck, right? Second, the second was Rogue Fitness, strength and conditioning equipment. So those are just other odd kind of objects to test people with. I mean, be strong, carry heavy stuff, and while you can be too big and you can be too this and too that, you can basically never be too strong, right? You just have to do it correctly for your body type and not get injured and all that stuff, right? But, strength and conditioning is an enormous part of that with and without a rucksack on, and climbing ropes and all that stuff as well, pull-ups. But the big operational piece was to incorporate the urban obstacle course that we built on the grounds at Sandlot JAX. So the festival goers, if you will, got to do this obstacle course, throughout the event. But at the end on Sunday, we used it to also test the participants. And so they got to go through it, and then we sliced and diced it for some other tests subsequent to their full time through the O course. But that's just a big operational lift. So we had 17 obstacles on a 1/4 mile track. I mean, it was stacked on top of each other. So you've got, I was tested on those confidence courses, obstacle courses, and you're testing balance, agility, speed, all this stuff. You're making sure you're not scared of heights, that kind of stuff. And so we wanted to basically take these athletes, it's great that you've got great balance, but are you strong? It's great that you can do explosive stuff, but can you ruck 12 miles on the beach first thing in the morning? Stuff like that, and combine all these disciplines. And so we invited a lot of people from these different people that are good at strength and conditioning, awesome. People that are good at obstacle course racing, awesome. People that are good at GoRuck, awesome. And then you're starting to see the high rock stuff come through and that as well, which is, kind of an endurance base with strength on top of it, which is my preferred. It's my background because Special Forces ultimately you have to have endurance and then you have to be strong. And so it comes hand in hand, but if you don't have an endurance base, you will not make it. And so I love kind of testing that and seeing what happens at that kind of a test. But we had all this infrastructure and we had the people coming. And usually these festivals, it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Usually what happens in these long weekend things is the Sunday is kind of quiet, but we just stacked it with the GoRuck Games, starting in the morning on part of it. And then it built into this competitive bracket. And then the big surprise was it ended with grappling on the grounds. And so that was a curveball, but we were also tested on that in the Special Forces pipeline. So be ready for anything.
What went in a manner that you did not expect when you actually had the games?
I mean, our team did a really solid job. I was very, very minimally involved with the execution during the weekend of the GoRuck Games. There was just a lot of other stuff going on. What really impressed me, though, were the athletes. I mean, it was the endurance. I mean, Hunter McIntyre, Katie, who they won it, and I mean, they were just really strong as well. And they have these endurance bases. Katie Knight had won World's Toughest Mudder and stuff, which is, it's great. You do all these miles, but they were strong. And that was the depth of field on that was really, really impressive. So overall, the games itself was good. Like, it went really well. It's just the athletes and the vibe was just, it's hard to put your finger on vibe, but where there's a lot of energy, it's usually a great vibe. And it was just a great vibe. I mean, I was just grateful to be there kind of in the field when this one went down.
And from the overall experience, what did you learn that you want to do more of in the future, or that you perhaps want to do differently?
You mean with the festival as a whole, or the GoRuck Games?
Yeah, no, the whole thing, any aspect of it.
So, I mean, I really just, it's like I wanted to stack live music on the grounds as well and make it a proper festival. I wanted there to be more camping, more like Shakedown Street, Grateful Dead style. Some of this stuff, like, we threw so much stuff at the wall on this one. And so it's kind of, like, we wanted to do more kids stuff. I mean, actually, kids was not my priority. Emily got involved a little bit closer and was like, Sam, the CEO or co-founder of Savage Race, was like, we need a kids obstacle course. We need, like, a foam machine and this kind of stuff. And so she pieced that all together toward the end when the clock was ticking. And it just proved to be awesome because parents could bring their kids and the kids had a ton of fun and got exhausted, which is the like, who's your favorite kid? An exhausted kid, right? And that was great. And so it's just kind of more of that festival vibe where people are participating too, right? Like, I've been, it's fun. I grew up loving Michael Jordan and I went and watched him play basketball and it was hugely inspirational. But life's a participation sport. And this is meant to be, hey, you can watch a little bit of this, but you got to go do stuff. Go do this. Go try it, And so we really just need more people to show up. And we got a couple thousand people. That was cool. It's good for a first year event, they say. But we just want to kind of do a full citywide takeover on this, like the South by Southwest of fitness in Jacksonville, Florida. And so the city's behind it, all that stuff. And we just got to kind of, keep beating the drums and keep making it a great place and a great experience for that to happen. But overall, man, I mean, there were small kinks to work out, but overall it went really, really well. And I feel kind of like almost bad saying that, like, because usually I'm like, this was terrible and this was terrible and this was terrible and this is how it's got to get better. And with this, I'm like, man, there was just a purity to it. And I'm really proud of our team because it took everything we had to make it work.
What, if any, impact did it have on the gear side of the business and everything else that you do in the events domain with challenges and other aspects of GoRuck?
So attribution is a dangerous thing, right? I mean, it's one of those long lost arts. And I feel like, attribution is not a long lost art. It's like the new kid on the block saying everything has to have perfect attribution or else it doesn't count, right? You run an ad, there's a perfect click on it. You see how many clicks you get on that. You see where the shopping cart is bought and you say, oh, look, this ad was great. Do more of it. Like, that's fine, right? Like, it ain't me, babe. That's not my vibe. And we can do that. We don't do very much of that, but that side has to kind of work itself out to some degree within our ecosystem. For me, we needed to teach ourselves how to go back to the beginning of community building. And, our events, by and large, despite the fact that we ran a ton of events, I mean, the numbers were terrible, like fewer and fewer people showing up. But we wanted to empower the Ruck clubs at the local level to bring people in to do what they were comfortable doing, right? So the point of this was, let's throw a party. Let's launch it this year. Let's trust in this process, this community building process of bringing people together. Let's teach ourselves how to do important stuff, like how to do proper retail. So you might see us doing proper retail at other events like the Rogue Invitational or the CrossFit Games or something. You will see us. There's a big event at Dave Castro's ranch in California with street parking, in early July, and we're doing on-site retail there. And so if we didn't have events at all, and we were, just a gear company, we would have to figure out how to attach ourselves onto other events, which is, by the way, how you get other communities exposure to what you're doing. The where that turns terrible is where you send someone that's just standing behind the booth inside the tent, like telling you to give them your email address for $20 or whatever the case may be, or here's my free, powder packet. Like, it's better than the other ones. Like, whatever, man, right? Boring. So how to not do it like that and have a little bit more fun in the process of, quote, activating the brand. And so this was a first step in that direction. I mean, we did okay on the retail side on site. Like the event lost a ton of money overall, but we knew that going in, and this is like better than Facebook ads, And so those, which are perfectly, you can do almost perfect attribution on Facebook ads or Google AdWords or keywords or whatever. And yet you're chasing ghosts at a certain point. It will not work. They will keep telling you that it's working, but you've got to create magic. You've got to do something to actually create value to your brand. And so this was a down payment in a lot of ways. And, awareness is a good thing. And we met a lot of great athletes that are, now excited about GoRuck, and that's great, and made some new friends, and that's great. And so the conversations have continued out of this. And, I mean, I guess that's part of the calculation. It wasn't really a conscious, like, oh, we're going to do this and then we're going to just scoop all this stuff up. It was more, let's see who comes, and let's see, what their vibe is, and, take it from there. And so we're just kind of taking it from there. So we lost a bunch of money. It's okay. It was a great investment. The people loved it. The people had fun. We had fun, right? And like it's grounds to keep doing it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it not so much from the attribution point of view, but rather from the point of view of you expanded into some areas that were an amplification or an extension of things that you had been doing. But when you're leading a business or leading a unit within a business, if you're going to bolt more things on, there's going to be some kind of opportunity cost within the organization relative to perhaps your primary activities, whether that's gear, running your historic other lines of business like challenges. And also there can be a really unexpected, and I'll use the word magical, which might seem like a strange choice of words, but something magical can happen, and you can get amplification. You can energize people within your broader community. You can energize your employees when you take on these new big audacious projects. And I'm just curious, was that the experience that you had? Or because also sometimes if a business moves in a new direction, people can feel like, oh, I'm pulled in a bunch of different directions, or I don't have enough time to do everything that I need to do, and I don't know what's going on inside of GoRuck. I'm just saying things I've observed in other businesses. So did you find this overall to be a very energizing experience within the company and for the community, or how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, it was enormously energizing inside of the company. And, there was a lot of confusion about this. I mean, up until the event itself, until people walked on these grounds, and saw what was going on and saw real people coming and bringing our way of life to life, and they got to be a part of this and be around it, it was enormously confusing. Like, why, and for me, this was like taking the high ground on the soul of our company back. Like, we are going to take this hill. This is what is happening. We are burning the boats. And if other stuff doesn't happen, that's okay. We can figure out a way to stack gear into this, not try to invent photo shoots for gear and then, do a poor job fumbling around. Well, how should I use it? And what, arguing over pixels of which photo looks better with, sterile backgrounds or whatever. Like, no, this is an enormous forcing function to say, if we've got gear, put it out there, let people test it and use it and like make this work for you. But this is the high ground of the brand, and build the business into that, not the other way around. And so that was because like I said, it gets, when you start having some success selling things, what happens is people that have experience selling things come in and they say, okay, well, this is how we can optimize the sale of those things. But you forget that the reason why people want to buy those things in the first place is because they have an emotional investment into the brand. They believe in the brand of GoRuck. And we've earned that. We've earned that by all the cadre that have run all the events. We've earned that lots of different ways by living the life and standing up, fighting for the values that we believe in and the causes that we hold dear, and having a voice in that field and doing a lot and giving back and empowering. Like, we've earned that throughout the course of our history. And like, here's this thing we got by it is just not high ground. That is low ground. And yes, eventually people will say, okay, well, this is great and I should buy it. And then you see more ads, and that's a different ecosystem. But to me, you have to keep taking the high ground, or like the high ground of your soul. Keep going this way up. And that is very much the hard way, right? And it's oftentimes crazy because this is working so well. But if you go this path, then it's a different outcome. And I'll give you a huge pivot at GoRuck that was a couple years ago or a few years ago that we're still kind of living with, that planted the seed for what became. Is we had the GR1, right? Some would say it's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, right? And it started out with this awesome story, right? Special forces dudes taking it to war. And then the GoRuck Challenge came about, and it's some Fight Club pipe hitter event stuff. And it's just proven, and the gear is thriving. The toughest part about GR1 became the person wearing it, which created this awesome energy around a product tied to the brand of GoRuck. And it is such an awesome foundation to have. And yet, at some point, there was a better tool for just rucking as a fitness and as a training thing that is a little bit different than everyday carry, or, I want to travel with this piece of gear, this rucksack. And so the Rucker was born, and that it looks like the GR1 sort of from the exterior. It's got more handles. It's got a different back panel that you can wear shirtless. It's got, a raised pocket in the interior where you can put either 20 or 30 or 45 pounds. It's got different things that it's not quite as versatile as GR1, because you can ruck with GR1 and do all these things. But this was a conscious play to say, look, let's be about the activity. Let's not just become about the thing that has this cool kid cachet, which GR1 does still, but we got to keep living life. We can't just become this gear company with dwindling event registrations that's kind of losing some energy on that side. So we went back to the beginning, and it was like, rucking will be bigger than running, right? And to do that, we have to build gear. We have to create a revolution. Like, we have to incite the revolution. Then we have to get the people into the streets while we're monetizing our own revolution. This is a massive undertaking that is worthy of all the days of my lives and my lives, maybe plural with the kids, who knows? And you sort of say that's a really, really hard thing to do. It takes all you got. But we believe in that, and we have that DNA, and we needed to build a product around energizing that. But GR1 is GR1. And if you're going to travel, and then there's GR2 and GR3 and stuff. If you're going to travel, travel hands free. It's a better way of life to me. You're like, I believe in freedom, and I try to get it wherever I can. And hands free is the way to go. Like, get a little stronger, train for your trip maybe a little bit, walk the miles. Don't just wait around for the Ubers. Walk the miles when you get there. You hands free with a ruck on your back. It's perfect. That's great. That's like travel and stuff like that. But you can also ruck with it because it's got two straps, and it's proven, right? But the rucker became our push into fitness, because rucking is fitness and training, and that part of the Special Forces way of life. And so to me, that is more important, because that leads to communities, and it leads to people being more active, and it leads to people coming together in the real world. And frankly, it's been a lot healthier for me as well, because, you run a gear company, you're not as inspired to get out and whoop it on and get after it, or you do it kind of on your own time. And I didn't want to do stuff necessarily on my own time, separate from the cool kid side, whatever that means, the everyday carry stuff. I wanted that that gets cooler when you're just living your life as well. And living our life was put the rucker on your back and like go get stronger. And so that led to, sandbags and now sand kettlebells. And it leads to how to train with a rucksack on your back. And it leads to, how to get your feet stronger, and how to do, it leads to so many more things that I think are really interesting and that we're really passionate about.
I wanted to go back to what you shared about some of the workouts you were doing in your driveway during the pandemic. And I think that there's the red thread here there's Sandlot JAX, there's the GoRuck Games, there's the challenges, but just something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I know I was sharing a bit about this with you last week, because I started a community workout here where I live in rural Maine on Sundays. I'm calling it Strong on Sundays, AKA SOS. And the idea is it's a very inclusive workout. I pretty much invite anybody that I meet. I don't know a ton of people here where I live. I respect however people chose to navigate the pandemic. We had a really tight bubble, and also it's freezing cold here in the winter, and I just didn't see a lot of people until recently. So for me, now I'm meeting people, I'm having them over. I don't actually know them very well. And, we're inviting them to bring their partners to work out or to hang out, kids, whatever. And what I'm noticing is I've known this all along, whether it's what I've done with bike racing with friends of mine or strength training or whatever over the years. But when you get people together and you do something, even if it's a pretty approachable workout, something kind of magical happens. There's something really powerful about people coming together to do something hard, like to do a hard physical challenge. And then once it ends, especially if it's, it doesn't have to be hard, but when it is really hard, there's just something you can just laugh about after you've done the thing. And for your kids to see that, and to see a group of people getting together and lifting heavy stuff or working out, sweating, bear crawling around in the yard, like they are like adults acting like they're 3-year-olds, then you see your kids start to do that stuff, or maybe they pick up a weight. And yeah, you've seen this at scale, you've lived it. I'm just curious, what do you think about the power of people coming together to do hard things together? Like, what does that do?
It's foundational to my happiness, because it's like what I learned at the kind of extreme situation. And it's a lesson that, I owe the Army and the Special Forces community. It's Special Forces is centered around 12 men on a team. And you do everything together, right? You eat together, you train together, you fight together, you bleed together, you do all that sort of stuff. And that's why you love each other so much. It's why, you'll serve America and all that stuff. And I'll always serve America. But this trumped that. It was more important to people, the guys to my left and the guys to my right. And we earned that, right? You earn it. It's the difference between, we drank together, we burned it down as well, all over the world, literally, in America, Europe, Africa, all of it. And, it's the difference between meet somebody at a bar and you have a drink with them, cool, right? Or you do mirth with them on this past Sunday or whenever the workout of the time is. It's like you're there and you have this in common, and it's some shared suffering, and it breaks down all these kinds of barriers. It breaks them all down, and then you can have your beer with them or whatever, and it makes it like the victory beer is all the sweeter. And if we try to just chase the reward, which we're good at, without earning it, which we're in mass also pretty good at, like, we're shortchanging ourselves. And so what I've seen at running hundreds of GoRuck events as just a microcosm of what Special Forces teaches you is people show up and they're on the street corner and it's 1:00 in the morning in any town USA or any town world, right? And there's just a distance between people. There's this kind of, it's awkward. There's a little bit of tension. You don't know each other. How do people get to know people anymore? I mean, I think physical activity is probably the best way to get to know people on the planet, because it's great for you. You get stronger, they get stronger. And, like, you put your guard down a little bit in a good way, because we have so many guards up now. We're so private. We don't want to bother anybody, right? And so it's like this other person is willing to be bothered, because it's a bother when you're running a GoRuck event or you start out a challenging workout or whatever. And it's like, okay, the buy-in is 100 push-ups, hand release, go, right? It's like, oh, that's the buy-in. Awesome. And then the workout is, whatever it might be. But at GoRuck events, it's like, look, I'm going to force you to work together. And it clicks, and people come together, and lifelong friendships and marriages and all that stuff has come out of that, because you go through these hard things together. But that's the case of someone motivating and kind of forcing it. And I think that more important and more scalable than the way that we would run a GoRuck event is these workouts that we put on, that you put on, sounds like, are infinitely scalable. Like, I do not care how much weight you have on your back. I do not care how much your sandbag weighs. I don't care if you do it slick. We've got people from my 7-year-old son to my 60-something-year-old stepdad to Rich shows up as well, and he's 73 or 4, right? And it's all ages, abilities. It's like, we don't care if you're anything. Black, white, young, old, gay, straight, purple, pink, polka dotted, whatever, don't care. It's like, if you want to show up, come just join us. Like, it's free what we do, and just come join us. It's great, right? And so that's how you get to know each other in your community. And so, we also take walks with our kids. Well, guess what? We see those people. We stop by our kids last night. It's like, they're like, hey, we're going over to Birdie's house, right? Well, Birdie's parents are always over at our house working out with us, And so they just get on their bikes and their scooters, and it's however long, it's half mile away, and away they go. Well, they're going to see 5 people out at dinner time or just after dinner on that street to get over there. And it's really kind of pedestrian friendly where we are, which is nice. But, that's how you start to love your community. You love your people. You love your tribe. You get to know them. You start to be, I dare say, more fulfilled, a sense of belonging, a sense of kind of being a part of something greater than yourself, caring enough about other people. To care about other people, you really have to get to know them. And you can't get to know them through screens. Screens are enormously dehumanizing. And the real world is the only place where you can actually fully humanize another human being, like by definition, right? You're just, 2D on a screen right now. And we've all seen this throughout the pandemic. Even the people that you know and like, at some point, you don't know what doing before the call. Nobody knows what goes on after. It's just this person on a screen. And, You don't know when someone's having a bad day or a good day, or you don't know. You just like, it's that connective tissue about, is the glue in our lives. And it's not worthy of any posts anywhere. You get no dopamine from it. It's just like the glue to our lives. And to do that, you have to be more active. You have to get out there. And so doing hard things is great. Encouraging people to do things that are hard for them and making it accessible, that's what's really important to me. And, making it inclusive to everyone, because we need a lot more of that in our country and our world right now. And so cheers to you for, breaking off the ice and the parks and the driveways up in Maine, and, bringing people together like you are.
Just trying to have some fun with friends. And, my kids, like all kids, love cartoons, which is great. I'll tell you something, Jason, I also love cartoons, but I've just noticed as they've watched these workouts or they've seen me head out the door with my Ruck on with the dog and have asked me like, Dad, like, why do you have that on your back? Why are you, it's like, well, this is a fun thing to do. And then I start to hype it up. And now I've gotten to the point where, they're excited to go out on the weekend. They're excited to go climb the mountain down the road from the house. I was just talking to my son and my daughter this morning about the hike we're going to do this weekend. And we got like halfway up the mountain last week and they're asking me, do you think we can get to the top of the mountain? And that just like warms my heart. Like that's what it's all about. And, I feel privileged that I have time and resources to go do stuff like this. And I'm not having to work 7 days a week right now, but that's, I want them to get to experience some of that. And if they're not exposed to that, then that's not something that I think they're going to want to do, I
mean, the lure of the phone and it's strong, man. And I don't think it's a viable solution to say, burn your phone and move to Alaska and do all this stuff. Like that's not accessible. You have to you have to pose something that people actually want to do, even if they don't want to do what they want to do. I mean, hike the mountain, people want to do that. How do we get more people to want to do that kind of stuff instead of on their phone? And I think that, the thing that we have the most ability to control is the example that we set for our kids, if we have kids. And so like that question you got, I mean, that's just the best question on planet Earth for you at that. Dad, can we get to the top of the mountain next time? It's like, yeah, we can, and it's like, great. It's great. I mean, and, our kids watch cartoons too. Our kids do this stuff. It's just, we've got them in the routine of enjoying night walks and enjoying, hey, it's time, let's go to the pool or let's go to the beach or let's go to someone else's house for dinner, like breaking it up a little bit more. And it's good for us too. We forget this, we forget this because we're adults now. And so, oh, look at all this important stuff I can do. And I can, I've got work to do and I've got all this stuff. Like, why, what's the point? What's the point? Are you happy? Is it working? If it's working, then more power to you. But I mean, really working in the kind of way you look in the mirror and you say, this is working, and I don't have it all figured out by any stretch. I just believe in my heart of hearts that whatever happiness, fulfillment, sense of belonging I have, it's because I'm willing to go be more active and say yes to more stuff and go meet friends and try to organize them and spend time with my family outside, not staring at screens at, Pizza Hut buffet for dinner where everyone just stares at their phone the whole time. Like it's depressing, and it's not killing us, but what it's doing is it's leaving us enormously empty as a people. And if you feel that way, more of what is not working is not a good solution to that. That's the definition of insanity, right? If you do more of something and expect different results, like I know what I need to do. I need to get better at Instagram. Oh, really? Like, walk me through that. Like, that's not what's going to happen. You need more social fitness, social health in your life. And that can start with you and your dog outside. It can start with you and your family. You can like start crashing into your neighbors in the parks or in their backyard. Or you know what works really well, right? Throw a party, invite someone. Say, hey, we're grilling out. People will say yes. And then they might even say, what can I bring? And then you know what you say? You say, give them a list. People will bring. This doesn't have to be a financial hardship. People will bring stuff. People are starving for this, right? Like versus, hey, would you like to meet me on Zoom for a happy hour? Like, how about no? You know, like this is a happy hour, and I'm grateful to chat with you. We have some real world stuff, and you know, share so much sense of life, and I believe in your mission and your message. My goal for stuff like this, though, is that it drives to real world interactions. And you know, I think we're just spread so thin with so much stuff, and the answers are not necessarily. Some of them are easy. They're very simple though, right? It's very simple. Throw a party, invite people, right? Do something in your driveway that's good for your physical health, which is also good for your mental health. And if you can, by the way, invite some friends, now it's good for your social health as well. And, you know, like somewhere in there, spiritual health is going to find you too, right? However you need to solve that one, solve that too. So it's like, it's so simple, and we're just, too many people are ignoring it. And that part makes me sad.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thanks so much for joining me today. And if people want to learn more about GoRuck, where should they go?
We're at GoRuck on all the things, right? I think what you should really learn about GoRuck is with, you know, somewhere between 20 and 45 pounds on your back outside, breathing free air as God intended. And that right there is GoRuck. And then when you get back, you should call up your buddy or your friend, and you should invite them to join you and say, hey, I know this thing. It's awesome. It's called GoRuck. Because that to me is the heart and soul of GoRuck. And so go get after it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jason.
Thanks, bud.
This is Andrew. I just want to say thanks for listening to Choose the Hard Way. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, hit 5 stars wherever you listen, and leave a positive review. Go to choosethehardway.com to sign up for the newsletter and share this episode with a friend who likes hearing stories about doing hard things.